All right, so we are on question 24 of 38. So we have 14 more questions to go before we're completely done with our review. A construction company takes 1/6 hours to remove 1/3 metric tons of dirt from a construction site. What is the unit rate in metric tons per hour? Write your answer in simplest form. Okay, so what we want to do is get another little document here. Make sure all right, so it takes 1/6 an hour to remove 1/3 metric ton. We'll just put MT. I confess that I don't know the proper abbreviation for metric ton. I should, but I don't. Metric tons of dirt from a construction site. What is the unit rate in metric tons per hour? So it was the 1/6 that was hours. So we're going to say metric tons per hour. And we're going to put 1/3 to 1/6. Okay, so that's going to be metric tons per hour. But we want a 1 on the bottom, don't we? Because it's metric tons per hour. How many metric tons per hour? So you could do it this way. Or you could just do this operation right here, this division, because x over 1 is just x. So let's go ahead. When we divide 1/3 by 1/6, we multiply by the reciprocal, which is 6 over 1. And 6 and 3 cancel with a 2, leaving a 2. Okay, so it's 2 metric tons per 1 hour, or just per hour. That was number 24. Number 25. Solve the following proportion for y and round to the nearest tenth. Okay, so we have 13 over 8 is 12 over y. So we're going to solve for y and round to the nearest tenth. So we're going to multiply, cross multiply. 13y equals 12 times 8 is 96. Y is, divide by 13 on both sides, 96 divided by 13. And let's go ahead and do that division. 13 into 96 goes, let's try 6 times. 6 times 3 is 18. And 6 times 1, 7. I think it's going to go one more time, so we're going to bump this up to 7 times. 7 times 3 is 21. Carry the 2. 7 times 1 is 7, 8, 9. With 5 left over. So remember, we're supposed to leave this, we're supposed to round this to the nearest tenth. So we're just going to put a 0, bring down the 0. Remember, the decimal's right here. But we can add zeros as long as we want to, and we're going to need to add at least 1 to figure out what the tenth is. 13 into 50, I think that's going to go 3 times. 3 times 13 is 39, which leaves 11. Okay, so 11 with another 0 brought down is going to be bigger than 5. So this one's going to round up 1. Let's go ahead and take it out. Maybe 8. Let's see, 8 times 1. I think that'll do it. 8 times 3 is 24. 8 times 1 plus 2 is 10. Yes. Okay, so now that's going to be a 6, but we don't need to keep on going because we're round to the nearest tenth, and we've already taken it out to the hundredths place. So since that's an 8, this is going to be a 7.4. Now, on your final exam, it's going to be important to round it to the correct place. That's part of your math learning. So you're going to lose some credit if you don't round it to the place they tell you to do. Please be careful. Okay, so we're going to get another little Word document and get rid of that one. Solve for you. This one looks like it's a miscopy because we can't solve for anything. It's an expression, not something we can solve for. So 26 is just a bad problem. Skip 26. It's a bad problem. 27 says divide 14 by 12. Well, that's pretty simple. They don't tell us, 14 by 8. How did I get a 12? Okay, so we could leave it a fraction. Divide by 2. Divide by 2 would be 7/4. Okay, and 7/4 is 1 3/4. So if we were going to make it a decimal, it would be 1.75. So we know our fraction values. We wouldn't have even had to do any division, really. All right, question number 28. Write 0.03 as a fraction. That's 3/100, so it'd be 3/100, and there's no way to simplify that, so that would be your answer. Number 29. Answer the following questions. 45, let's see if I can get this. 45 is 45% of 40. Of means times, doesn't it? Times 40 will be our equal sign, is what number? We'll put an X. Okay, so I'm going to take my 45%. I tend to like to work in fractions more than decimals. So I would say 45% times 40 equals X. And then I really like to cancel out zeros. Okay, so now I would go ahead and finish this one up. I have 4 times 45, which would be 20, carry the 2, 18, 180, divided by 10. Okay, so that's going to cancel that. So the answer is 18. 45%. Now let's see if this makes sense. 45% is just a little bit less than a half. And 18 is a little bit less than a half of 40, isn't it? Okay, the second problem says 28 is our equal sign. 35% of means times what? Okay, so now here I want to get rid of the 3,500, so I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. And I'm going to multiply by 100 over 35 on the other side, which is going to cancel these out, leaving just my X on the right. The X is on the right, and Oh, we can do some fancy canceling. 7 goes into 28 4 times. 7 goes into 35 5 times. Okay, so we wind up with 400 fifths, 400 over 5. But 5 goes into 48 times, so 80 is my answer. Okay, so now let's see if that makes sense. We said 80 was the answer. 28 is 35% of what number? And 80, 35% is less than half of 80. Okay, so it makes sense, doesn't it? Number 30. All right, so number 30 says use a calculator, but we're not going to have a calculator on the test. So we're just practicing the math concepts, and this is not too hard to do without a calculator. So practice the math concept because you may have this on the final without a calculator. 3% of 22. This is not hard because 3% is 3/100ths. Times is your of 22. And we're going to write this. It says do not round your answer. So we're going to say, okay, a calculator would give us the answer in a decimal form, wouldn't it? So 3 times 22, remember that's 22 over 1, is 66 over 100. But since it would have come out in a decimal form, the 100 is going to take this decimal and move it 2 to the left, so it's going to be 0.66. And that would have been the answer without much calculation at all. Number 31. Ryan borrowed money from a credit union for 5 years and was charged simple interest at an annual rate of 6%. The total interest that he paid was $1,500. How much money did he borrow? Okay, so we don't know the principal, do we? So it says that he borrowed some amount of money, and the time was 5 years, and he was charged a simple interest at 6%. And we know that he paid $1,500. So interest equals principal times rate times time. Okay, so we're going to have the interest was $1,500. The principal is what we do not know. We called it X, but we can just call it principal. Times the rate. 6% would be 0.06, wouldn't it? Times the time, which was 5 years. Okay, so I could multiply all this together and have 1,500 equals principal. Now I'm just going to multiply these two together because 5 times 6 is 30. But since I have a 0.06, it's going to be times 0.30. Okay, so I want to get the p by itself. So I'm going to divide this side by 0.30. And I'm going to divide this side by 0.30. Okay, so now I'm going to move this one over to decimal places. 1, 2. And tack on 2 zeros over here. Okay, so now let's divide by the 0 can go out with that 0. And the 15 divided by the 3 is going to give us 5. And then we count the zeros left. 1, 2, 3. The principal was $5,000. Okay, that was supposed to be a P for principal. And I didn't make it a P for principal. There we go. Principal was $5,000. Okay, Number 32. Avana obtains a loan for home renovations from a bank that charges simple interest at an annual rate of 15%. Her loan is for $13,800 for 84 days. Assume each day is 1 over 365 of a year. Answer each part below. Do not round any intermediate computations and round your final answers to the nearest cent. Find the interest that will be owed after 84 days. Okay, so we're going to say the principal, interest equals, oh, it's giving me that funny look again, principal times rate times time. Okay, I don't know why it does this sometimes. Okay, so now it says that the loan was the principal, $13,800. So we'll put that right here with the P, $13,800. And the rate was 15%, so that would be 0.15. The time that we're looking for is 84 days. So because always our time is in years, it's going to be 84 divided by, we'll just put it in a parenthesis, 84 divided by 365 days. Okay, so now that's going to give the interest. So now, remember how easy it is to take this 0, 0 and turn this into 15. So we have 138 times 15 times 84 over 365. Now, if I was giving you that for a final problem, I would probably allow you to leave it just like that, because you've really set up the problem and you've done everything but the, oh, my phone's way over there. Okay, so you've done everything except for this calculation. Okay, so let's go ahead and get, I'll just get my calculator real quick because I don't want to waste time on this. I would probably not make you do that type of a computation on your test. I would probably let you either use a calculator or leave it like this, because you're telling me what you have to do. All right, so I have my calculator, 138 times 15 times 84 divided by 365. So I get 476.38. We're going rounding it to the nearest cent, so 0.38. So $476.38. Now it says, assuming Avana doesn't make any payments, find the amount owed after 84 days. Okay, which means that she's going to owe her original principal added to, and the interest added to the original principal. So that would be 13800 added to 476.38, which would be 1427.38. That's a lot of money, dollars. Okay, so these should have been your answers. 476.38 and $14,276.38. So that was number 32. So let's go over here. Remember, your answers are down here, and I expect you to use them to check and see if you're getting things correct. $476.38, $14,276.38. Okay, so we got it right. Let's go back to 32, which we just did. Let's go to 33. All right, so on 33, we're getting close. We've got negative 4/5 to the 0. Remember, anything to the 0 power is 1, but we have a negative. So that's a negative 1 times 1, which would be a negative 1. And then this one right here, negative 9/2 to the 0 would be 1, but then we have a 2 times the 1, which would be 2. Remember that the exponent has a higher priority than the multiplication. So we have to do the multiplication in last. Question 34. We have 4 times 75 minus 7 minus 1 squared. Okay, 7 minus 1 is 6. 6 squared is 36. So remember that order of operations, this parenthesis, everything in here, this is one big parenthesis here. Everything in here happens before we do this last thing, this last multiplication. So I end up with 4 times 75 take away 36. And 75 take away 36. Is going to be 15 minus 6 is 9, 6 minus 3, 39, and then 4 times 39, trying to make a bracket there, and 4 times 40 would be 160, so 156, okay, should be the answer. So question 34 should be 156. So we can come over here to question 34 and see if it is 156. It is. 34 is 156. Okay, so we are on question 35. Now, remember, I'm not going to let you use a calculator. I will ask you to tell me which 2 digits that one lies between. So let's do 16.5 will lie between, square root of 16.5 is going to lie between 4 and 5. Now I know that because if I square each one of these, 4 squared is 16. And the square of the square root gives me what's underneath it. And the square of 5 is 25. So we end up with 16 is less than 16.5 is less than 25, which is true. So I take the square root of each one of those and go back to this. So the answer to this is between 4 and 5. Number 36. Find 2 consecutive whole numbers that square root of 5 lies in between. So we're going to do that like the one we just did. Remember that the square root of 4 is 2. Okay, and 3 squared is 9. So the answer is going to be between 2 and 3. Let's check by squaring. Square 2 is 4. Square root of 5 is 5. Square 3 is 9, and 5 does indeed lie in between 4 and 9, so this is the correct answer. Square root of 5 is between 2 and 3. Number 37. 37 says 5 times 10 squared, and we're going to write that in standard notation. Right now, it's in scientific notation. So we're going to just take this decimal point right there. The decimal's always at the end of the number, and move that decimal 2 places over and fill in with zeros so that 5 times 10 squared is 500. And the last one in the last video in this class is, drum roll please. Okay, we are going to write this number, which is in standard form, in its scientific notation. So 3,621,000 is going to become, now we start with our decimal here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Remember, we go right behind the first non-zero digit. So 3.621. Scientific notation is A times 10 to the R, is the kind of generic formula we think of. And this A number is always going to be between 1 and 10. It cannot be, it has to be less than 10. Okay, so this number is less than 10, isn't it? And it's greater than 1, but less than 10. A times 10. Now, how many places did we move it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spots. So 10 to the 6th. And we have successfully completed our last review for the final exam. So remember that each one of these reviews is a quiz grade. You have the answers in the back, but you must show work on every one of these to get your quiz grade. To get a good quiz grade, you must show work. So since I gave you the answers, I'm going to be very strict on that. You have to show me that you did the work, and then check the answer and make sure you got it right. Because it doesn't do you much good to do a review if you aren't checking your answers to see if you got it right. So we will have our final exam on Friday, and this is Mrs. A, and may God bless your day.